I want to get the view from the Hill, and we're going to bring in California Democratic Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez. She's a ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congresswoman, thanks for being with us. And I'd really like to think, what is your reaction to Secretary Kerry actually going to Egypt? What could you think he could accomplish?
Well, it's always a lot less expensive if we don't go to war or others don't go to war and we actually use diplomacy, Jose, to try to fix some of these issues. So I applaud Secretary Kerry for going over there, for working with the new president of Egypt to see if he has any influence with respect to Hamas there in Gaza and to try to resolve this conflict, at least get a ceasefire while we can get the people to the table so that they can discuss this before they continue to kill each other.
Yeah, you know, the last ceasefire attempted by Egypt really went nowhere, and the Israeli justice minister is saying that there's really no real options for ceasefires right now. I'm just wondering, is there anything that the world could do? It just can't be that we can stand by and see this living hell, as Martin was talking about in the last segment, continue with no end in sight.
Well, you know, I have a stepdaughter and a new grandson there in Tel Aviv, so this is it's a very emotional thing when you see these rockets raining in. We do need to get this under control. This is about Israel. It's about the Hamas, and so we need to get them to the table to talk to each other, and that's unfortunately been the difficult piece. So as much diplomacy as we can, as much incentives as we can before we really take a look at this spilling over into not just there, into so many other places.
And Congressman, I want to take you to the immigration crisis that is hitting not only the border, but really the country at large. Now, Speaker Boehner is going to outline a border legislation proposal that will ask for, well, changes to the 2008 law, but not necessarily deal with giving the president the $3.7 billion he's been asking for. What do you think should happen? I mean, this bill is in situ. It was signed by President Bush, a bipartisan bill. Should there be changes to that?
Well, certainly even the current president has asked for some changes. He's asked for, in addition to monies, to put in judges, to put in people, to put in detention centers for these young people. He's asked to try to amplify the process by law, which President Bush signed in 2008. By law, this judicial proceeding that these young children get. He's asked for that. He's asked it to go faster than the 600 or 700 days that it now takes. So there's an incentive, I think, from the Republican side to try to get some of this money in and to try to do this. Of course, what they want to do is just to immediately deport everybody. I don't see Democrats as a minority in the House voting for that, nor do I see that as having an easy venue through the Senate. So we may be stuck here for a while.
Governor Perry announced his plan, as you know, to send 1,000 National Guard troops to the border. Here is what his lieutenant governor, speaking on the plan within the last hour, had to say.
Our effort in Texas is not focused on the unaccompanied children. That's a humanitarian problem which can be solved this afternoon by either Congress getting off their duff and passing the Cornyn-Cuellar bill, or the administration saying enough.
Is he making a good point? I mean, is it time for Washington to step up further?
Well, let me remind people that the number of children unaccompanied coming across from these Central American countries is actually slowing down. We estimate at this point there's about 100 a day, where there were 5- or 6-fold of that. So some of the things that the president has done are working over there to let families know that these children are not to come, etc. But this is a standing law. It is about taking care of children. There's a purpose for it. So I don't see the Congress really wanting to change that. With respect to the National Guard, I sit on the Armed Services Committee. I sit on the Homeland Security Committee, senior member of both. The last thing we want to do is to put armed troops on the border. That is not the purpose of our military. We have increased our Border Patrol. We have gone from about 5,000 people just right after 9/11 to about 23,000 today, many of them focused on the border. We're shifting the resources there to the Texas part. We're apprehending people. They're not getting through. We're apprehending them. Now we need to figure out who they are. We need to figure out whether we send them back. We need to figure out whether they stay here because of civil strife in their own countries.
Now, Congresswoman, because it's very important to make a distinction. They're being caught because they're handing themselves in after crossing the border. So the question is the border really safe?
The border is secure. Remember that what you're talking about, the main place where they're crossing, Jose, is a waterway. It's a waterway. I mean, what do you want us to do? Build a wall in the middle of a river? So instead of putting a wall there, we have opted to put sensors, law enforcement, people who can actually be there and apprehend people. The problem is, usually what we do with adults, for example, we take them, we put them in holding cells, we figure out who they are, and we do send them back to their countries. With children, it's a different manner. We have to hold them, we have to ask them what happened. You have to be very careful with children, especially because there's been a lot of sex trafficking of these children. And that's why the law was signed in 2008, to treat these children differently than adults.
California Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you.